Quote, a multidisciplinary computer ethics initiative integrates ethical education in parallel or in sequence with technical instruction, but keeps these disciplines separate within the degree program as a whole. Ethical concepts and skills are taught separately from technical concepts and skills, and they are brought together only at key milestones in the course of the study. Ethics is treated as something that can inform and improve technical computing work, but not as essential to the work of computing per se, end quote. So the author unpacks many different ways that you might be able to explore this within a computer science class. So for example, like an assignment that might have like a little connection with ethics. Like, okay, so you're going to program this thing, but also think about the ethical implications of the results on users or whatever. Could be a single assignment like that. It could be like an entire unit, but it could also be like an entirely separate course that is specific to ethics. Maybe it's just a broad ethics course or a course that's specifically on computing ethics or ethics and computer science. But again, it is disconnected from all of the other classes or all the other degree work. So as we talked about in last week's episode 179, this is an approach that you could also use in your K-12 classes as well. You could have a class, a unit, a semester, etc., that is specific to ethics and computer science, or as simple as a single assignment that does that. Now, the author notes that this approach has an advantage in that it is relatively easy to be able to add this into existing technical curricula, but there are some disadvantages to this. So here's a quote from page 648 that unpacks that. Quote, these approaches fail to take on Miller's insight that technical and ethical issues are best taught in connection with one another, rather than separately. This artificially isolates subjects that, in the professional world, always co-occur. Computing always takes place in social context, and ethical issues arise in connection with specific aspects of technical computing work. And a little bit further down, multidisciplinary computer ethics education risks presenting ethics as supplemental to the real world of computer science, namely the technical skills, with the bulk of the curriculum dedicated to technical instruction independent of ethics instruction, and ethics interventions limited to one-off courses or assessments. Students are often given the impression that ethics is an afterthought, burden, or box to tick, end quote. I really appreciate the author's framing of this in terms of like both what are some of the advantages and disadvantages, or the affordances and constraints of such an approach. Again, as I mentioned many times, I like to focus on multi-perspectival approaches to education. There are many ways of doing things. So we will look at something like multidisciplinary computer ethics and go, this works, this does not. This highlight is from episode 180 of the CSK8 podcast, which you can find on any major outlet.